Okay, so the reading from Emmett Fox to start. Okay, there we are. Okay, this is from a section called Keywords in the Bible. And this one is life. And Fox writes, Jesus said that he had come that we might have life and that we might have it more abundantly. The Bible often uses the word life, and always with the implication that it is the greatest of all blessings. A quote from Psalm, with long life will I satisfy him. Another Psalm, thou wilt show me the path of life. Proverbs, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Then he goes on. Jesus says that those who follow him shall have the light of life. And the great goal of man is said all through the Bible to be eternal life. Now, what is this life of which the Bible speaks? You experience life when you feel yourself to be free and useful and joyous and unconscious of either fear or doubt. Everyone has known such periods. Though they are much rarer than they should be, those are the times that you were alive. At other times, you did not have life in the scriptural sense. So when the Bible promises us long life under certain conditions, it promises us a long period of joy and freedom. When it promises eternal life, it promises the enjoyment of these things forever on the condition that we keep the great law by seeking more knowledge of God and putting him first in our lives. So today we are honored to have Lori giving us the talk. What is the topic, young lady?
Thank you for that, young man. Old world spirituality versus new world birth.
Go for it.
I don't know about you guys, but this past week has been energetically intense. And when we had all of the violence going on and the even more obvious split between what is prayed for by the country and what is not prayed for, I felt this enormous shift happen. I felt this, I became very unbalanced by it for about 24 hours. It took me out of my center and it got me wobbly and angry and upset. And I took to TikTok and started talking about it, and other people going, I know, I felt it too. So I thought, okay, good. That's nice confirmation. And then I started thinking about, in spirituality, we talk a lot about forgiveness and love your enemy and things like that. And so I said, where does the line get drawn between where I'm a little at a loss as to how to express this, but where does the line get drawn between I don't feel anything. I don't feel badly about this thing that happened. I don't feel angry and self-righteous either. So where do I go with my spirituality when there is somebody who has been unalived, which is a thing I do not stand for. I am not for violence. I am not for taking of people's lives for any reason. But what do I do with not really feeling anything? What does that mean? And I decided it really doesn't mean anything if I look at it in terms of having boundaries. If I say to myself, okay, I would not wish this on anybody. This is bad. And the person who has suffered this fate was a proponent of this kind of freedom to do this kind of thing. And I said, for me, that is a boundary. I cannot stand with that ideology. I cannot stand with the spreading of hatred and divisiveness. And that allows me, by knowing where I stand in that as a human, then I can still go look for some kind of peace within myself around that individual. I don't have to hold a sense of, I need to say something about, he did or didn't deserve this, or he should or shouldn't have done that. All I know is where my boundary is. And my boundary is, I cannot support hatred and divisiveness and all of those kinds of things. That is not okay with me. And I'm not going to support a person who does that. So I was reminded of a few things. I was reminded of how somebody asked Amachi once, do you punish people? Do you ever punish people? And she said, the punishment that I mete out is not my punishment. What I do, if I am not going to support you in some way, is I just step back and let karma have its way with you, which is a very interesting thing to say. Like, what does that mean? Like, that's worthy of thinking about a lot. Because it's not that she will stop you from having the experiences that you have co-created. Your free will must be maintained. But you may, we all co-create these situations, some situations that are like too much. And she helps us. So she reduces the impact, or she helps us through it, or whatever. And she had 3 ways. She said that it's sort of like with karma, you can have 3 kinds of karma. One is like a cold. And you go to the guru and you say, hey, I've got a cold, and the guru can take that from you, and you're all better. And the next one is you have like a stronger illness than that. And you still have to go through it, but you go to the guru, and the guru says, I'm going to take a part of that from you. So you don't have to go through it for 4 weeks. You're going to go through it for 2 weeks, let's say. And then the third kind is like having a disease that they tell you they can't cure. And she said, at that point, what you do is you simply hold on to God's feet. You just don't let go of God's feet. Then I started thinking about that shift, that incredible shift I had felt. And I started watching things on YouTube, and I was watching one woman in particular. I highly recommend you check her out. She's a British woman named Pam Gregory, and she's an astrologer. You like Pam Gregory, Sylvie? Yeah. Yeah. And Leah too. Yeah. So I was watching her just last night, and she was talking about how we are collectively in an evolutionary soup right now, that we have already left the caterpillar life. We've already gone into the cocoon, and we've already dissolved into what I forget what they call it, the liminal self, the nominal self, whatever. We've dissolved. Can you put that word in the chat for me, Sylvie, or say it or something? Because I can't remember what it's called. but thank you. And that's the most amazing thing to me of all about the butterfly experience is like, there's not even eyes, there's nothing. There's no heart, there's no nothing. I mean, liminal. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And yet the innate intelligence within the atoms of that being moves into a becoming a butterfly. And she said, we're already in it. We're already dissolved. So I started thinking about the old ways of being and the new ways, the ways we're moving into, and how the heck do we, how do we bridge this? How do we move into, how do we go through this? Because the old rules, a lot of them are built on shoulds. And to go back to the start of of the talk, I should forgive. I should be kind. I should. And the problem with that is it's so limiting of our own natural intuition and inspiration and guidance. And it can actually stop us from protecting ourselves. So for women, this is the best example I can think of, is that for us women, we're taught so much. You should be nice. You should be agreeable. You should, and then when somebody attacks us, we just go deeper into nice and deeper into trying to forgive. And a lot of us never ever get to the processing of the anger, the outrage, and Brian, you know this better than anybody. You see it with all of, so many of your clients, that there's all of this submerged emotion and emotional settings. The old way is based on God is this figurehead, however you perceive God to be. It's a figurehead that knows all, and you are always at least one step, if not 20,000 below. And you have to go and you have to, beg for the things that you want. You have to beg for the mercy and beg for the grace, and beg for permission and beg and beg and beg. And in the meantime, what you feel is you feel less than, you feel powerless, you feel it's easy to go into hopelessness. The new way of looking at things is really, it's 180% different. It is an absolute turn. And it is, I'll put it in my language. There's I'm sure many ways to talk about it, but mine is, to quote Abraham, we live in pure positive energy, that which we call God. To me, that energy, that frequency, the frequency of all that is Godness. And we, being born of that, being made of that, we have direct contact with it. The question for us is how to have that direct contact. It is also, how do we switch our brain from, switch our consciousness? How do we open our consciousness to going from, I have to wait for the gift, I have to wait for the permission, I have to wait, I have to hope for, and I can maybe now and again be part of the miracle too. I am the miracle. I am the abundance, because I am the extension of that which is. I am not, me and my little human self am not all that is, but you and me, and when we look at vibrationally, it's just like the movie The Matrix. There's really no separation energetically. And it is our consciousness that puts us into these boxes and says, here's where I stand, and here's, yeah, I do mean Christian dogma, Star Child, yes. But really, even more even non-ancient Judaism. I mean, I'm talking about religious dogma and spiritual dogma. Because the things that we say we believe in, they have a truth to them that we can discover. But we haven't been, until now, and I think this is going to increase, we until now have not been pushed into a place where we have to figure out what the heck it really means to make our lives work. We've had a lot of external support. The external supports are starting to, they're crumbling. And we're being pushed deeper into, okay, where's the real power? Where is this power inside of me? What does this mean? What does it mean to trust my heart? What does that mean? How do I apply it? How do I reclaim my sovereignty? And so I went, speaking of ChatGPT, I went to ChatGPT and I asked the question, what's the difference between the old paradigm and the new paradigm? And also, what are the spiritual isms that we inherit and that are worthy of examining, not in order to say we were ever wrong, because it's not about that. It's about growth. We're in an evolutionary period. I mean, we have always been evolving, but now is when the heat got turned up, and it's not going to slow down now. And according to Pam Gregory, there is no going back. You know, once you have dissolved in the cocoon, you cannot go back to being a caterpillar. So we're only moving forward. So here's one phrase that ChatGPT came up with. Good things come to those who wait. Yeah. And no. Right? No, as far as, does that mean I sit around and just wait and I have no agency, no personal agency in the choices that I make and the shifting of my emotional and vibrational energy, which is what shifts my reality? It's physics and metaphysics. The way we feel, the way we believe, the way we think, it's all attached to our emotional body, which is very strong. It's stronger than what we think. And that energy that we live in and as goes out into the world, and it attracts or repels or modifies both what we see and what we receive. Everything begins, everything in every second, in every millisecond, it starts with you, starts within you. And that's really hard to grasp. That's painful to consider, because that, if we really take that to its logical conclusion, we go, well, that means that all of the stuff that's hurt me, there's some part of my spirit, not necessarily my human self, because I'd rather not suffer, thank you, but there's some part of my spirit, like when I went homeless, there's some part of me that wanted and needed and desired to have that experience. It felt terrible. I experienced unbelievable shame and doubt and fear and disconnection from the divine. I felt all of these horrific things for years. And yet I look back now and I go, look at all of the strengths, all of the ideas, all of the inspiration that came to me because I didn't have a freaking choice. As far as I was concerned, I'm talking just about my journey, but it was like, do you want to survive? So that was the first, yes, I want to survive. So then there were people who were kind enough to bring me into their home. Then the next thing was, am I going to survive this, or am I going to end up an old bad lady on the street with no money? And I didn't know, because part of me was like, I don't know what God wants. And that's the old paradigm. Because God does, the new paradigm is you can have, be, and do whatever you can focus on and align with vibrationally, emotionally. That's the new paradigm. The old paradigm is I have to see what God wants. And I don't think we have to give up one wholesale to get to the other. I don't think that's possible. And I don't think it's healthy. I think what we have to start doing is consider what are the truths of the new paradigm that we can add into our soup, our existing soup. Where is my spiritual identity? Where is my spiritual strength? Where is my autonomy and my sovereignty? What single thought that I feel like maybe it feels a little uncomfortable, like God gives things to those that wait. That makes me uncomfortable. So then the question, there's not like one answer for this. It's what's your answer? Whatever it is that makes you uncomfortable, then the question is, how do I bring my sovereignty into this in terms of looking at it and asking the question, is this real? Is this true? Is this a part of what I believe God to be, which for my case is freedom and love and conditionless, limitlessness. God doesn't want any, God is love. Until I have the direct experience within me at will, I can't tell you what else is the deal. I do know that we sort of need go-betweens, but the go-between should not be that we give up our sovereignty. It should be that they are the people who teach us how to reclaim our direct connection with the divine. And I think what's happening right now in our culture, in our world, is that all of the things that we have leaned on in religion and spirituality, all of the beliefs, they're going to be more and more tested, because the things that we hooked them on were outside of us, and the outside of us is becoming unstable. So I bring these thoughts to you as a way of confirming that we are on the right path. What is being built right now, vibrationally, by all of us is so important. As everything continues to dissolve, we vibrationally, I believe, are being asked to find where our boundaries are. What is it that I will not align with? What will I align with and insist on aligning with? And in so doing, we are building the future vibrationally, even if we're unaware of it.
Wow, thank you. Thoughts, contributions? Leah and then Sylvie.
Okay, Lori. I like that talk. Yes, I love Pam Gregory. I just got done listening to her on Next Level Soul. Yeah, fascinating. Learned so much. Okay, sorry. Whew. Doing okay, but I have my moments.
Take a breath, girl. It's all
That's what
right.
I'm trying to do. My body's adjusting to what they did Thursday and everything. And anyway, to me, it's not. It's fine. Like, what's his face got killed, and he was doing a lot of hatred. And of course, I found out after the fact, because I don't listen to the news, because if you're meant to know something, the universe will let you know. And and a friend sent that through Facebook, and I looked at it. Oh, look what happened. I'm like, okay, so who is he? And then I find out who he is. It's like, oh, okay. Then when they caught the killer and everything, and how he derailed whatever, I just found it interesting. And it was my thought. It's like, oh, this guy was preaching about killing, just about everybody. And what happens, using guns. And what happens? He gets killed by a gun. It's like, maybe with his thoughts, he attracted what he wanted to have happen to other people, but it came to him. And I'm like, oh, okay, there you go. There's no judgment, no right or wrong. It's what it just is. And so to me, I don't feel like I have to feel anything because that's just it. It's his journey. It's what he chose. It's not what I would have chosen, but that's me. And of course, I wouldn't have chosen what I went through either. But well, on this level, physical level, who knows what I chose before I got my butt down here. But yeah, so it's nothing wrong with not feeling sad or happy. It's just it is life because you're meant to stand in love with yourself so you can spread that love. And but you're like, and we're meant to have curiosity while we're down here. We're meant to have fun while we're down here. That's our purpose. Are you having fun? If not, why not? And what's happened in the past is lessons we chose to learn, apparently, and made us who we are today. So we can look at things differently with, mm, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Not necessarily with compassion, but have that, but don't have it where you take it on as if it's yours, because it's
Mm.
not yours. You're just to be here. And like the lady, stuck with two kids, and it's like, okay, she now, her kids can now hopefully be raised, be shown love on their own journey. It's something they have to go through, but all I can do is send love, wrap them up in love, and send them off to the universe. And sometimes I call it universe, sometimes God. I never thought of God as some old geezer, never did. So when you talked about some old geezer, I'm like, where in the hell did she get that? God, I've never seen him as a human. I just saw him when I would wrap you up with love and say you need a healing. I would place you because I am human. I needed to see hands, but it was so full of light. I would put you in God's hands. So that's all I ever knew God as was somebody with his hands out full of love, ready to take care of you, whoever, myself, whatever it is. But yeah, it's normal not to be happy or sad. It's just, but a curiosity. We are human. It's like, huh, it's interesting. Okay, next in life, not who's going to be killed, but in life, what's next? And I like what Matt Kahn said one time said, he watches the news so he knew where to send the love. He didn't take on the burdens or the negativity. He goes, if there was, well, there's a war somewhere. He goes, oh, they need love. Let me send it to them. And that's the only reason why he never took in the news as if, oh my God, oh what, he just took it as where to send that love. Because if you ever heard him talk or whatever, he is so full of love. So he's able to give it. So I will quit talking now. I could keep on talking about him, as you well know, Lori, next level. So the people he has on there, just fascinating. You cannot stay in the old. You have to move forward. There's so much we don't know, but learning things that are coming up. And I've heard more than one person talk about this is the year number 9, and 9 means completion. So whatever you need to complete in your life, whether it's letting go of something or beginning something, you have it's an ending of the old way, I guess you could say. And so depends on how you look at things. If it's up or down, how are you going to look at it? So keep the smiles going, keep that love light burning inside your heart so you can be that shining light for all others. All right,
Thank
bye
you,
bye.
Leah. Thank you. Sylvie, you're next. You're on.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to thank Leah for that. That was beautiful, and Lori. I about that assassination, when I first heard about it, I was outraged. I didn't know this guy. So I started watching YouTube videos about him, and I started getting outraged for a different reason. Yeah. Then I started watching, well, we talked about Pam Gregory. I started watching other things about astrology, and it seems that it was very much in line with the stars about what was going on. That's kind of like, I don't know, that's I don't mean to say doom and gloom, but it is kind of like what it's it's fate, that sort of thing. I'm thinking that it's not nice to really say I guess it's not nice to really judge or just be, gee whiz.
Well, there's a difference,
That's
isn't
gone.
there?
Yeah,
Isn't there a
you know
difference
what,
between
just-
judging and being
yeah,
judgmental? You have to have good judgment, don't you?
yeah, that bad energy is gone now, hopefully. Well, don't get me wrong, I'm never an advocate of anyone who's killed off or anything like that, but I didn't know this guy. I didn't know him at all. And I was outraged at, oh God, there's another one, there's somebody. Then I started thinking, and part of me still does, that it's an inside job, because things like that happen. But how he got away with stirring the pot like that, just to hear himself talk blows my mind. To hear himself, to put himself on a pedestal, to just be completely, is a word, is it self-righteous? I don't know. Something crazy like that.
Self-aggrandizing.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Self-aggrandizing.
I don't know if that's it, but he's you cannot reach his pinnacle of goodness, whatever. Well, that's kind of like what I wanted to say about that. But as far as what Lori was talking about, when she was talking about where is your power, we have this power within us. We are, all of us, temples. everything, all our energy, we are like a working tool of energy. We don't need any middlemen. We don't need to go someplace, to go to we don't need anyone bringing it in for us. We can do it ourselves. That's what I'm trying to say. As much as they have always tried to say that we are down here and God is up there. God is within us. We just need to realize he or she is there. And then you can do, it's limitless. And that whole thing about AI, Lori, AI isn't always right. Good things come to those who wait. I think we've waited a long time. And I think if there's something you want, we've been patient forever. And I think that being told things like that and going, okay, yeah, all right, I'll wait a little longer, is just, I think, demeaning to us and keeps us in line, keeps us controlled, keeps us placated. And if there's something you want, work for it, get it. Which kind of brings me to the whole thing about, how did she put it? We shouldn't be angry. Like the old paradigm was we should be all like, work on your anger. Sometimes it's really pretty good to be angry, I mean, not destructive, but work on your anger, to understand it. It's all kind of like working through it and understanding your shadow self, really, because, we're not all goody two-shoes, and we just aren't. We've got good days, we've got bad days, we've got good thoughts, we've got bad thoughts, and it's kind of like we need to work through them for ourselves and for everyone else. I think that's how it works.
Thank you. What you said comes up with something I was thinking. In Lyft, one of the statements that so many of my clients need is, I'm in charge of my own life and I make good things happen in my life, which is in one sense, the antithesis of all good comes to those who wait, which to me is part of the lies that the patriarchy and the power hierarchy use, as you were saying, to keep the rest of us in line. Now, on the other hand, good things come to those who wait in anticipation and action. That might be a different story.
Yeah.
But in both cases, it's not the passive, oh, if only, if I just wait, and so forth, which is the powerlessness that the powerful want us to adopt.
It kind of seems that they want you to just sit there and be hopeful, but don't go trying to do something about it. They just kind of want you on a shelf where you'll keep, I guess.
Well, and I'll say that for religious leaders too. They want you bowing to their control, which is why we don't have that kind of leadership here. Don't want the Don't want the temptation of just do what I say and love me. Okay, let's move on. Someone else have a kind? Oh, Ellie. Okay. Oh, and then Dave. Okay, so Ellie and then Dave.
Lori, I liked your talk. You know, when you were explaining the 3 ways of karma, you know, it made sense. I don't know who Pam Gregory is, so I don't listen to her. But you were saying, you know, the old ways, you know, I'm reading this book and it's called Heal the Witch Wound. And it basically talks about, you know, different ways that when we feel different ways, you know, what we felt, you know, in the past. And it's interesting in the fact that, you know, we can feel things that we may not know what it is, but the deeper we dig, you know, we get connected to, you know, maybe our ancestors who, you know, were persecuted or went through that or were, you know, beheaded or killed or even saw, you know, what was going on during the burning times. And then now, fast forward to where we are now, sometimes we feel these things and not understand what they are until we dig deeper. And as you were explaining, you know, there's not a right or a wrong, but we're evolving, we're moving forward, you know, and that starts, you know, within us when you know, how we can shift reality. Well, the word that came to me when you were explaining that was manifesting. You know, intention and manifesting, you know, propels us forward. And a lot of the pagan communities, some belief just says, you know, intention is everything. Well, that's all good to know, but intention isn't going to make the loaf of bread materialize. You have to do something to make that loaf of bread materialize. You have to manifest that. So you have to do something. And so, you know, when you were saying that, you know, that starts within us, you know, not outside of us, you know, that brings back, you know, how the feminine, you know, she's not on the outside, she's inside. And I've run into more women that understand that than men. No offense for the men that are here. But the women seem to get that aspect. The guys usually just refer to it as God, not like more masculine, not necessarily the feminine. And of course, there's difference between the feminine and masculine, as we already know. And you know, when you were explaining the physics and the metaphysics, you know, and the acceptance of that, you know, shadow work, which Sylvia already mentioned, you know, comes into play. You know, there's certain aspects of us that, or things that we've, what's the words, put somewhere else in our thinking or in our personality or something that we didn't like, whether it was how we were not so nice to somebody or whether it was envious or jealousy or, you know, judgmental. You know, we take those things and we push them down for whatever reasons. And then when things come up in our own lives, we're like, why is that coming up now? Well, it's telling us, the universe, the goddess, is telling us, hey, you need to work on this right now. And there's no accident that what's happening now is happening for us to deal with whatever's on the inside of us. You know, Lori, you were saying that, you know, it's okay not to feel. Leah brought that aspect up too. You know, I really don't feel anything. And then some people get really emotional about, you know, what just happened with the assassination or with life in general. And you were saying, Lori, you know, the truths of the new paradigm, you know, to add to the soup, reclaiming our direction, you know, with the universe, accepting our divinity. Well, for many of us, that's hard to do, especially for those of us that grew up in religious dogma. You know, all the shoulds, shouldn't, you know, that sort of thing. There was this other person who you guys may or may not have heard of that died a week or two ago, James Dodson, Christian teacher. Okay, Brian, you know who I'm talking about. And there were a lot of TikTok people on TikTok that survived that whole era of, their parents listening to him. And when I was listening to these people, these survivor stories, and saw what James Dobson was actually teaching, his whole attitude toward the kids that were different, the the neurodivergent child, blew me away. And it was like, wow, you treated these kids who were so different from your box mentality. You wanted to keep them in the box. And many of these men and women are speaking up now how that affected them. And many of us who lived through that, we're looking at that going, wow, that wasn't the way, even though we grew up in it. And Sylvie, you had mentioned, we don't need to have someone bring something to us because we already have it. Ironically, that is a whole section in Torah that says that we don't need to go to the mountain. We don't need to have someone from the water to bring it to us. We don't need to have people bring that knowledge to us. We already have that knowledge in our mouth, ready to say and do it. That's Judaism, and it's just ironic to me when I hear the different teachers in this group say how they see God. It's so different from, my experience. I grew up with knowing the different names of who he is. Jehovah Jireh, he who provides. Yehovah Roi, he who heals. Yehovah Nisi, my banner. There's another one. He who sees. So all of these different names, that's who I know him as. And now, it's transferred to the divine. That's who I know the divine as. Those human words, if you will, as Leah was explaining, when I needed something human, that's what came to me. I understand provision because of being provided for. I understand being seen because I was seen. So I have all these different experiences that I've experienced from the divine, of love. And it's just like, wow, that's who the divine is, not how the divine was taught in the Christian dogma of someone being up in the sky and punishing you every time you try to make a mistake. So Lori, yes, I very much enjoyed your talk today. So thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Dave, you're up. Okay, there you go.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, quickly. I only got part of it, but I think I got the gist of it. But just the thing that I took from that is that, yes, as Brian said, and as Lori said, there's, what I found, the older I get, I find it, my life is filled with contradictions. I mean, everything I learned as growing up and going through school, I found out later to be false. We know we can't trust our political leaders, a lot of our spiritual leaders, a lot of people who we looked up to or put on a pedestal have sort of as we get older and learn more, we found out that they weren't always being authentic and telling the truth. And ultimately, what I found is that we all got to find our own truth for ourselves. And I've been toying with this for a long time, and I think I need to get on this post haste. Is thinking about writing a book along the lines of enlightenment for the angry soul, because it seems like every day we find something that pisses us off. I know I do. And then some would say, like, well, yeah, you bring it on yourself. I'm like, yeah, but I think there's some things that you just look at as like, okay, that's not right. Although there's not really a right and wrong. It's just kind of like how our perception of it. And so, and then other than that, one of the biggest contradictions that I think that I've encountered on my spiritual path, and growing up, you talk about, you hear about, oh, you need to be very specific about what your goals are, what you want in life. But then on the other hand, it's like, oh, not my will, thy will. I'm like, what the f? I was like, just give me something better than what I got right now. And so, and so I just know that, and we've all gone through our trials and tribulations. And for the life of me, I'm trying to figure out why the hell that I lost my dad some 30 odd years ago at the age of 56, and how I lost a son at 21. If I would have, anyway, signed up for that, thinking that's going to, progress me in some way, I don't think that I would have, as a spirit, signed up for that. So I have a hard time accepting that. Oh yeah, God would never give you more than you can handle, because God's been kicking my ass for a long time, I think. And I think that, I think that if I had to do it over again, I would not have lost my son. I would not have lost my father at an old age, or have my mother going the declining that she's encountering right now. And so, I know that yes, I have been able to withstand it, but it's been kicking my ass. And like I said, I think that's why I need to write this book. So I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
Yes, let us see that book.
Please write that book. The title alone is gold
Yes,
and will speak to so many people.
amen. Okay, anybody else? Okay, we need to move now into our silence. Let's see what the divine has for each of us following all these enlightening comments. Okay, so we thank the divine for having brought us all together. We give thanks for the wonderful conversations and seeking that we all shared today. We give thanks for the healings that have been given to all of us, that we are still here. We give thanks to the positions God has put us in, that we can be of service to others. We give thanks for all the good in our lives and all the good coming to our lives. We give thanks for the indwelling Spirit that guides us and helps us be and become all that we can be. We give full praise and glory to the great divine. We say thank you and amen. Take good care of yourselves this week. Please do keep Phyllis in prayer. She's still got a ways to go. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Meantime, lift up the world however God gives you the opportunity. Bye-bye for now.